How's it going, classic camera fans? Today I would like to talk to you about two cameras. I recently got them. They're Nikon cameras, and I believe that they are the two most beautiful cameras that Nikon has ever made. Let's start with first. Here I got a Nikkormat camera. It's a Nikkormat FT. I got it a few months ago, probably for $36. Okay, in mint condition. It came with a little attachment that would mount to the back of the camera by the prism finder, and it would extend upwards on top of the prism finder. You could actually mount a flash unit there, but the piece was cracked and it was really sharp, so I took it off. I didn't want to use it. Plus I don't use flash with these cameras. It came with other lens. I have a lens for it in my bag that I use with the other camera I'm going to talk about. This one is probably a 1970s camera, and I had Nikkormat before. Nikkormat was pretty much the same thing as Nikkormat, but it was marketed for the Japanese market, and somebody must have brought it here, and I bought it, and then like full I sold it on eBay for a couple dollars. Anyways, it's a 35mm camera, as you can see. It's extremely beautiful. Look at the finish. I mean, it's just beautiful. It's sexy. It has a light meter. You can put a battery here, but I don't have a battery, and I don't use light meter. I use external light meters. Well, you can watch my other videos and you can find out. This camera, you could make it work, but like I said, the battery is like $5 for that new something. It used to be Mercury, the 1.35 volt battery. But anyways, let's talk about its functions. Now notice that on top of the camera there's no shutter selector. And then how do you select the shutter? Well, around the lens mount, get closer. Around the lens mount you have I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, maybe you can. There you go. Here. This is a ring that you adjust, and you select the shutter speed that you want. The shutter speed ranges on this camera ranges from B, which is bulb, then to 1 second, then all the way through 1/1000th of a second, which is not bad. It's enough for what you want to eat for basic usage, and that was the standard back then. 1/1000th of a second for this type of camera. Yeah, on the bottom of the lens mount, you have your ASA setup, your ASA selector. You need to select the ASA for the light meter to work properly. If you don't use a light meter, you extended external light meter, you don't have to worry about that. But it could work as a reminder of what type of film you're shooting, 100, 200, whatever. The settings range from 12 to 1600 ASA, which is the same as ISO. Now, the viewfinder is just a prism finder. You can't change it. There's nothing you can do about it. When I first got it, I was used to these cameras where you actually pull out the rewind mechanism and the back will pop open, but not in this case. Here you have a little tab here on the bottom which you pull down, and And you got this crazy rubber here. And then the back will flip open. Okay, it's just really clean. It's an amazing little camera. Well, it's not little, it's pretty heavy. It's pretty heavy by itself. If you add a lens, it's another half a pound or so. Now, it's got a few functions that maybe you should be aware of. It's got a depth of field preview button, which is this little button on top, right here. You press that down, and the little lever inside the lens mount will step down the lens to pre-selected aperture. It has a self timer, which you basically cut the shutter, you pull it down, and you press the shutter release. Amazing sound. To load the film, you open the back. You put the film in the right hand side, and you just pull it to the take-up spool, and you just cock the shutter and advance the film 1 or 2 frames, just so it catches onto the take-up spool, and then you just basically close it up and you go on a shoot. What else should I talk about? Well, it has a mirror lockup. It's a little lever here on the side. The knurled tab. You basically just pull it down, push it down, and it will flip up the mirror. So if you want to do that. Now, since it has a light meter built in, it has this little funky bolt here, which is timer. It's a meter coupler. Let me find a lens for it. I'll show you how to mount it without revealing the other camera, which is sitting right here. So I'm just going to hide it for you. Pop it back in. Alright, so I got this Nikon F2 50mm lens that normally came with these cameras. That was like a standard lens. Well, this was a standard lens. So now in order to put it on, like you might have seen in my other videos, you have to pre-select the shutter, the aperture of 5.6. Otherwise it will not go on the camera. So 5.6. Then align this center of the bunny ears with the bolt. Pop it on and twist it on until it clicks, and then you turn the aperture ring all the way to the lowest number, the highest number, and then back all the way to the lowest number. And what we'll do, you'll actually set the I'm losing my mind today. The light meter, it will actually, the light meter will know what's the widest aperture, what's the smallest aperture to use. Okay, so you just select it, and this little ring on the side has a little red dot there, and the red and 3 numbers, 1.2, 2.8, and 5.6, and the little red dot will wind up somewhere. In my case, which is an f2 lens, it will wind up between 2.8 and 1.2, and leave it there, and camera knows that it's the light meter knows f2 is the widest aperture, and f16 is the lowest aperture. So calculate based on that. Well, and if it worked, the light meter window is right here by the rewind mechanism, and that thing is it's got a little round circle and a little needle, and the needle moves back and forth. So if it's down the middle of the circle, That's your that's your basically average scene. That's what meter it. And from there you have to compensate for blacks or for whites, depending on what you want to do. But it's a reflective light meter, so it does reflect. It's through the lens though. Now, in order to adjust that shutter speed, you pretty much you have this little lever, and you just push it back and forward, and then you have a black dot here, and then you just match the number with the black dot, and that's your shutter speed. So let's hear this thing. Awesome sound. So anyways, at the end of the video, I'm gonna post a couple pictures from this camera and from my other camera. And I love these little guys. They're really well built. They take amazing pictures. And although I mostly shoot medium format, these 35mm cameras are something that if you love this type of stuff, you want to have them in your bag. They're really, really good cameras. I'm going to pause the video and I'm going to grab the other camera and we're going to talk about the other one. Okay, I'm back and now I'm going to talk about another camera. This is another Nikon camera, but it is a camera that I always wanted. I've been looking for one for a while and finally got a good enough price to buy it, and I got it off of the big auction site. I got it off a lady whose late husband was a photographer and a camera collector. So he had a bunch of these different cameras. Among these was this. This is a Nikon F. It's one of the earlier models in production. It's from #63, I believe. And this I consider the most beautiful camera out of all the other ones I have in 35mm flavor. Like I said, I've been looking for one for a while, and I wanted one with prism finder instead of waist level finder or metering photomic prism that you can see out there. They're cheaper, these are a little bit more expensive, but when I gotta talk about the price doesn't matter. What matters is the camera's in perfect working condition. I just finished a roll of film, developed it, and I'm really pleased with the results, which I'm gonna post at the end of the video. Nikon came out with Model F in 1959. Nikon F revolutionized the world of photography, especially 35mm photography. At first, people thought that there would be no need for SLRs because there were a whole bunch of rangefinders, and Germans were making some SLRs like Exacta. But there was this thing that SLR will never be accepted by professionals. Look what happened. Every professional uses or used 35mm camera. Nikon based their design off on their older rangefinder cameras, Nikon S, I believe it was. You can still find them. Really expensive, but you can still find them. Let's talk about its features. Well, I got greasy hands, I was just making something. First of all, where should I start? I don't know. Well, first of all, the viewfinder is removable, changeable. You can put a metering finder, or you can put waist level finder, if you can find one. The main thing about Nikon F, when it came out in 1959, was the introduction of the lens mount. Okay. In 1959, the designers of this camera first seen the future attachments that would go inside this camera. So if you're a Nikon shooter and you have one of them digital Nikon cameras, you have a F mount. F because the model F that first had this mount. The mount was big enough to accommodate all the future accessories such as light meters, CPU contacts, motors, all kinds of weird things that they would add later that would make our life easier. How the hell these people came up with this is beyond me. Engineering is something something extraordinary and amazing, especially when it comes to this camera. You have to understand that when they designed it, when they were designing it, the guy that was designing the outside appearance, the body of the camera, he was put in 10 by 10 room inside a Nikon factory, and in secrecy, only a couple people, top people in the factory knew what they were doing. They were designing this camera. Finally, when they got it all working, they needed to test it in zero temperatures. So they didn't have room like that. So what they did, they took it to the local cake factory, and they got inside the freezer room, and they tested these cameras there, and they were all working fine. These cameras have been to Mount Everest. They've been everywhere. Maybe not this particular one, but Nikon Fs. When it comes to opening the camera, it's like the older Russian cameras or Nikon rangefinder cameras. You have a little tab on the bottom. Just flip it up and turn it to where it says open, and basically the back just slides off. You have two pieces. There was no hinge on Nikon F. Film goes the same way as any other Nikon cameras. Just put it here and just transfer over to the take-up spool, and then you wind it. It didn't have a hot shoe anywhere on the camera, but it had this mount here where you could put an adapter and then mount your flash or whatever else you had. Like all the Russian cameras, for example, like Zorkis, in order to rewind the film, you had this little ring around the shutter release where it says A and R, A for advance, R for rewind. And if you're rewinding the film, you just twist the ring to where the dot meets the letter R, and you'll be able, the mechanism gets released, and you'll be able to wind it back. If you want to advance it, you just have to put it back where it was to A for advance, and you can advance the film. This camera didn't have a meter. It was 100% mechanical camera. The meters came later. I believe 2-3 years later they came up with a meter that would mount inside the viewfinder. But notice it doesn't have the metering tab. The photomic finder had a little tab sticking out, a little bolt with those bunny ears, those couplers would mount there. Then you would, like with the Nikon I just talked about. It has a depth of field preview button, which is not on top, but it's on the side right here. press it down, the lever steps the lens down. The aperture, the shutter speed is on top. It's a little round disc with shutter speeds. Ranges from T to 1,000th of a second. T for time, B for bulb. Look it up if you don't know what that is. Now over here on the counter mechanism, you have two windows. On the bottom, you have a window where it says 36. That's your frame window. It's a reminder for you to know how many frames you got loaded. If it's 36, you can slide it back to 20. They didn't have 24, I guess, back then, so there was 20. But it doesn't really matter, it's just a reminder for you. And the top window is your frame counter. It goes to 36. No matter what. Now, in order to change the viewfinders, you got a little button here in the back. You press that button and you hear a click and the viewfinder gets released. Just like German Exas or Exactas, they had a removable viewfinder. If you want to put it back in, you just simply slide it down and press it until you can hear a light click. It has a mirror lockup, but it works a little bit differently than the normal one. You just mechanically don't do it. You just twist it and nothing happens. When you advance the film and press the shutter release, the mirror flips up and stays there. You have to release it in order to for the mirror to go down, and click it again, the mirror will flip down. It has a PC cord, PC sync outlet right here. You can attach your flash if you have one. What else is amazing about this camera? The person that designed it, his name was Kamekura. He was exploring Zen philosophy, and if you ever watch a video about Nikon F, there's one on YouTube. I encourage you to watch it, it's really cool. He explored Zen philosophy, and in Zen there's three basic shapes. There's triangles, there's circles, and straight, sharp lines. So he designed it into a camera. It was either subconscious or on purpose. We don't know. So he designed a triangle into the pentaprism. Okay. The circle is the lens mount, and then the sharp edges, which create the rectangular shape of the camera. It's all found in Zen, and it was put into this camera. Maybe that's why the camera was so successful. I don't know. I'm not an expert. It has a self timer, but it's released differently, so you just pretty much wind it down and press the little button on top, and it will count down and trip the shutter. Like I said, this was my dream camera for a while. Now I have it. I shot with it. It's so amazing to hold a camera that revolutionized the world of photography. Another thing about the triangular shape, if you notice any new Nikon digital cameras, if you look at the grip, underneath the front wheel, aperture wheel, you'll notice there's a red triangular shape. It came from this. This was there first, and then they designed it into a grip. They kept that triangle for all these years. Another thing, that the lens mount, you can fit pretty much any lens that was designed to fit F, which was after the F was introduced, so any F mount lenses will fit this camera, except for I believe the new ones, the G series with the aperture ring missing of the lens. Oh, this is the lens, it's the same lens I use for my Nikkormat. Same way you install it, just clicks, and there you have it. Amazing, amazing camera. And if you're really into Nikon, I encourage you to check out the video on Nikon F. It shows you exactly how they designed it, what they went through, and it was an amazing process. So I'll be posting the pictures on the end of the videos, and until the next time, this was an overview of another classic camera, and hopefully next time I'll have some more. I'm actually waiting for 2 more cameras. I'm waiting for one from across the pond. I ordered one a few weeks ago. It'll take a while to come here, and I'm waiting on one to come back from repair. It's just Rolleiflex, the old standard Rolleiflex. And the camera I mentioned coming from across the pond is a mystery camera. I know what it is, but I'm going to surprise you with it. There were not too many produced, and you can find them here and there, but they're scarce. They're not the best cameras. They're not the most beautiful cameras. I'll leave it at that. So let me end this video, and hope you enjoyed it. If you didn't enjoy it, let me know why you didn't enjoy it. Or you don't let me know. Just keep it to yourself. And post a comment. And if you want to know some more, let me know. And I'll try to help you out, or you can help me out. We all help each other. I guess that's a good thing to do. I don't know everything. I don't claim to know everything. I just I'm a mere user and admirer of these beautiful mechanical pieces.
Bye.